What's up, y'all? This is Picker on Promo back with another episode. I'm super excited about this one. Our guest today is Derek Peoples from D Peoples Creative out of California, Los Angeles, California. And we're so excited to talk about the creative space in the promotional products industry. I'm going to let Derek talk about his background, his role at BAMCO being the Senior Global Creative Director, and then talk about how we can utilize our creativity to make the most for our customers. So, Derek, thank you so much for being with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure being here.
We're so pumped. So let's, the one thing about this promotional products industry, while everyone talks about creativity, we don't share about all the creatives in our space very much. And I really want to bring that creative side to the rest of distributors, suppliers in my audience. So Derek, tell us about your colorful history, how you got into the merchandise industry. You've been all over the place and super excited to get your insight and share your
For
experience
sure.
about
For
merch.
sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the consumer products industry for some 30 plus years. And for a bulk of that, before promo, I was really truly at the factory level designing from all sizes of brands, from little brands, big brands, from Goran to Disney, really on purpose, actually, kind of jumping around to bigger to small. Because they have their challenges, but they also have their fun parts. It's great when you have a
Yep.
gigantic budget. But actually, I actually have more fun when I have a little budget, which fits perfectly into promo. When you don't
Absolutely.
have a lot of money, that's the big challenge. So it was when I first heard about Bamco, we got in contact with each other. I was like, I'm not doing promo. I'm not doing Thundersticks. Because in my mind, as a lot of people think, that's what they think promo is. It's just your T-shirt with the left chest logo, your Thunderstick, and your cinch sack bag. But Bamco actually offered a different equation to kind of flip the script on it and really dive into not just a standard answer, but what the customer needs. And a lot of times they make decisions based on what they think they're supposed to buy. Because in the promo space, as you know, the customer many times that's not their sole job. They're not usually, it's something that either gets added into their role or they have to visit just a few times a year. So they're not in the world of product, and that's what you wanted to bring to the fold, because there's many things you can do that feel like they're outside the promo space, that feel custom, but they're still promo. And that's just really going in with like a really creative strategy, and letting the customer talk, letting them put their ideas out there, even though sometimes they're not that good, but they actually feel that you're listening to them, and that's what everybody really wants. So,
Yeah.
and it's really, when I started there, it was my job to make the customer the star, for them to be able to bring back something to their management or whatever, to have a great positive thing. Because most people, look, I'm not going to say that a t-shirt or a water bottle doesn't work at times, and it does. But when you are talking to people that they say gift the same community a few times a year, how many water bottles have you given them?
Yeah. Every
How
year.
many have you ever actually put out a blind survey, not directly emailed from HR, where people can give you feedback? Because if you send out something from HR, do you like the stuff we gave you? Everyone's going to smile and nod. Sure. But
It's free.
it's free. Thanks.
Yeah.
I've got 8 of them. Just one quick little story about promos. Really funny. I had a barbecue at my house
Yeah.
maybe about 3 weeks ago. Had about 15 people there, all ranges, from a lawyer to a soccer mom, and there were some kids there. And we decided to have hot chocolate for the kids. And I wasn't prepared. I said, "Why don't you kids run into the kitchen and grab some mugs?" So there was 2 10-year-olds and a 14-year-old girl. The first thing out of their mouth is, "Why do you have so many mugs with a company name on them, and why do they have your name on them?" Which actually sparked a conversation with specifically the 14-year-old girl, who is in a basketball league and not outside of school. She's been it for 2 years. So, and she just popped up and said, "I've got 10 water bottles and I only use one." Okay. And it's the nice one. And I said, "Why should they just give them to us? We don't want them." I said, "Well, what do you want?" She laid out a list of things, everything you could get in promo, that she would have preferred than another water bottle. And she felt burdened that she had to get rid of them. And that is like a microcosm of when there's a lack of creative and a lack of choice in promo.
Yeah, and I feel like COVID was the catalyst for that drinkware. You know, I can't even sell it right now, but 2020 to 2023, I was crushing it. But I think, yeah, people got drinkware fatigue. Like, you can only have
Oh,
so many, you know, even if you're a Stanley collector.
yeah, yeah. There's only so many cinch sacks. Oh, wait. The best part about it, I said, "Did you get those water bottles in a cinch sack?" As I'm like laughing in the back of my mind. She's like, "Yeah, I just throw it away like it's like the box."
Uh,
Like,
that
ouch,
hurts. Say,
ouch.
can I record that and play that to every buyer to think through their merch when they just want to slap
Nobody
that
likes a
logo
cinch
on?
sack. They cut into your shoulders. They're crap. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But yeah, I've never been a fan of it at all. But
So,
you know,
kind of share your, you know, you have handbag, headwear, accessory
yeah.
experience. How did you get into the fashion space? And as you know, been designing and moving up in your roles at different
Yeah.
companies, you know, Claire's, Disney, and some of the other ones,
Mhm.
how did that how did you end up getting into that space? You know, growing up as a kid, were you the artist, or how did you stumble in?
Yeah.
And then
Well,
why
yeah. I
did you
mean,
stay?
I came. Luckily, my dad actually worked in the TV movie industry on the camera side. So creativity, and my mom was European, who definitely had just a different perspective about being creative and giving the space for kids to be creative. So I had a great knock on something. I had a great upbringing that way, and I actually went to Parsons for design.
Nice.
Which yeah, yeah. I started at Otis Parsons, then Parsons in New York, and then that's what led me into actually moving to New York right out of college and starting a line of clothing and accessories with friends of mine. Don't go into business with your friends, by the way. And we had a shop in Soho, and this is like back in like 1994.
Yeah.
So from there, that kind of put me in the microcosm, especially at that time, of just design and fashion and the whole bit. And I very quickly moved into accessories, A, because I'm an accessory hound. I love a good accessory, but also you didn't have the same fit issues you had to worry about with apparel. So it
Yep.
allowed you to definitely kind of you can get crazy with a handbag in a ways you can't get crazy with a t-shirt, because that t-shirt's got to fit somebody. That
Yep.
a handbag, I just got to make sure that it's not cutting up under your arm and it holds stuff and you can close it. There you go. Beyond that, the sky's the limit, and you can really, and it also allows you to take 2D creative and turn it into 3D creative in a way that is sometimes hard goods, sometimes structural, that you can't do with apparel because you just look weird with that stuff hanging off your shirt. But
Yep.
that got me into that space, where I worked for various amounts of people, in pretty much all area of accessories. Some in the licensing role. I mean, I've done everything from Hello Kitty to Kenneth Cole. When it comes to accessories, that was all in New
So
York.
that opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. But let me tell you, the cuter the product, the crazier the person that makes it. And I can tell you about Disney. That's a whole other ball of wax. But when you're there, you are the juggernaut. And as in a Disney role, you're really creating the creative for people to use. And you're really more in an advisory role where actually licensees are creating the product. So it's more of how do you guide people. But one reason they hired me at this is because I had a long career and understood at a factory level the cost and construction. So meaning, I wasn't going to go in there and basically kill somebody's margin by saying you got to do this for Disney. They're like, well, thank you for giving us a negative margin on that. But able to help them be able to make Disney happy, but still make a decent margin. And that's all kind of construction and material and the whole bit. Because I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to that. I'm not gonna lie. And I really enjoy it.
The tech packs?
Oh
Were
yeah,
you
I mean,
building the tech packs? Or
I've actually been at factory level and cut the patterns myself, and help pattern makers build product to either shave cost or to do something that's just some newness, some differentiation in the marketplace. Because I feel that for me personally, if I can't create at that level, then which is funny because the promo is the complete opposite. Then I feel hemmed in, and that's why I had the adversity to like promo. I'm like I don't want a pad print in a 1x1 inch printable area. Thank you very much. But
Yeah, no
again, it
fun
doesn't
in
have
that.
to be that. It doesn't have to be that.
Sure. Well, I think that's a big stereotype that even I started in the apparel space. I used to tour
Mm-hmm.
with rock bands selling merch on the retail side. My
Yeah.
brother grew up in LA and I used to go to all the factories there in LA, cut and sew and dye houses, and got to see that inside. And then
Yeah.
my idea of promo was the tchotchke, the pin, the basic mug. And I never wanted to offer that to my clients until I saw that they're already ordering it. So how can I take my fashion forward kind of apparel approach to the promo? And that was like one thing I wanted to do, that I wasn't just wanting to sell those products. I wanted
Right.
to bring in that creativity, even if it's higher price points. I don't want to do. I don't want to create widgets all day. That it brings no joy. And so
I hear
being
you.
able
I'm sorry.
to,
No, no
expand.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
and with the
there's a cost differential between this what's the ROI on your marketing dollar, and the cost. So if you want to
yeah,
give somebody the same thing they've got forever at a cheap price, and someone has deep stock that you can get it really quick, by the time you get it to them, the reason you're giving to them is just gone away. They don't really care because they already have 5 in their cabinet. But if you
yeah,
are spend that little much more, or you add a story or a purpose behind it, then it tells a story. Then the sole reason, promotional, why it was purchased actually gives you an ROI, a lasting ROI with the customer, not beyond like, oh, thanks, and you throw in the back of the car and forget about it until months later when you're like, what is that? Oh, right. Someone give me a mug.
and I think the difficult part of our industry when you're dealing with HR and procurement is
Oh,
the
procurement.
ROI, but the brand equity. It's hard to put a price tag on that of,
Yep.
or not even a price tag, but the ROI of like, all right, did this actually work? It's not directly connected to sales, but the
Right.
brand awareness. So like the Dunkin' campaign, I feel like that's the first time I've seen a mainstream, the commercial and the Super Bowl tapped in with the product. And I think that was a brilliant come together of, this is what it can be, and this is how you make it even better with, the visuals and the marketing side
Yeah.
of
Oh,
it.
yeah. I mean,
Can you
and
tell me a little
Duncan.
bit about how that all came together with
Oh well,
Dunkin'?
Duncan is a interesting story because Duncan was maybe 5 6 years ago decided to expand west, and they technically dropped the name Donuts out of the name because they felt that
Right, okay.
if you're in Boston, you can find a Dunkin' every 5 feet. Out in the West, they thought people would think it was a donut store, and Dunkin' really wanted to become competition with Starbucks. So they dropped donut out of the name, and that's when the big campaign that came out that you see just the Dunkin' everywhere and pink and orange, and that's it. And let me tell you, it is hard to recreate a line in pink and orange that's going to sell. And this is we're doing retail merch for them. This is not even promo. This is actually full retail in the store. You can
Yeah.
only like massage pink and orange so many different ways before you're like, dude, nobody wants more pink and orange. So, but we did,
Oh, yeah,
and
exactly.
a way of and with one logo and one print that they canceled the print after the first season. So we had a logo, and that's when the ability to actually work at factory level and look at techniques, look at the ways things are built. That's thing. So we had a long history of Dunkin' coming up to the Dunkings thing, but
Yeah.
And it wasn't not insignificant for Dunkin'. I mean, these were $1 million orders that they were placing for actual retail drinkware that would sometimes tie in with a promotion, but the drinkware was sold. The drinkware was never given away. Um, that was
Even
really, and
better.
I got hands up for Brett Mars, who is, if you know Brett, is tenacious beyond belief. That really went into Duncan because he went after all of their franchisees first because they were unhappy with the product that Duncan was putting out and got them on board with actually selling it because it's a cash cow for them. They don't do nothing. They put it on the counter, it sells. They don't have to pay for something to make it. They don't have to pay for any raw materials, nothing. Boom. So he sold it as cartons like X amount. This is how much revenue is going to be out of this, and it took off. It took off, and it's still going.
Still
It's
going.
cuckoo bananas. Let me tell you, every so often you bring a sample home, and I'm not one to bring samples home because I got enough stuff.
Yeah,
But there's a
sure.
fair amount of pink and orange in here that like that again you take stock. That was the other comment about the kids. They're like, got a lot of pink and orange in your cabinets. Like, no, it's
Well,
dumbass.
now you're having to accessorize with that color scheme. So
Yeah,
yeah, that
yes,
makes
yeah.
it tough. But luckily you're on the coast, so those bright colors work well.
Yeah, and I have to say, probably because I mean, my dad worked in the TV industry, and understanding, and also working with Disney and studio properties, understanding how to interweave storytelling into products is paramount to really let that piece stand apart. So just that philosophy of how do you tell a story with product is just kind of how I'm put together, to be honest. So in that it can happen in many ways. That can happen in packaging, although packaging is a slippery slope because sometimes a box is more expensive than what's in it, depending on what that box is.
Yep, yep.
And but delivering how are you delivering the message? How are you getting the feedback? And that was a big thing about promo when we were working with procurement. Ooh, dirty word, procurement.
Dude, I
Because
hate
they don't
it.
they push it out, they look at the spreadsheet, and that's all they think. They didn't follow
Yep.
up. They didn't ask if anybody liked this. They didn't even look to see if they were using it themselves. We had remember one meeting with a Fortune 5 that they're renaming us. We asked the procurement person, "Do you use it?" Silence. And it was like an aha moment for her. She was like, "No, I don't." I'm like, "Well, why are you giving it to everybody then?"
Yeah. I mean, it seems like such an easy thing, but the majority of businesses aren't doing that. They don't care. They just think it's like, oh, that you have a business, that's something that you do. And I think the Vista Prints and those, some of those online companies, they're not helping at all. They're making it easy for them, but
Yeah,
they're not strengthening their brand. It becomes, oh, it's another
yeah, I know.
something
I see,
instead of,
like,
oh
I
wow, that's
mean,
awesome.
God bless them for the staples and the Fort Imprints of the world that are out there
Yeah.
working with the mom and pops that are doing that stuff. And let's be honest, a lot of their business is doing that, and I don't even want to know what their customer service department looks like. For that, you didn't approve that.
Non-existent.
Yes, yes, you did approve that, ma'am. But and that fits a niche. That's fine. But
Sure.
when you are a large company that has and there's a common discussion to have, like, what's your marketing budget? You're not going to tell me, but I can guess. And you're putting this X amount of dollars. You have an entire team that's working on your social media, that is working on customer feedback content, but in this one area, you just turn your back. This one spot where you are spending a significant amount of money that you check a
Yeah, there's
box.
no follow up. There's no data collection like every other, and that's how you determine success is through the data and
100%.
not even checking into it. But again, I think that's the big disconnect that, oh, it's just merch or swag or whatever, not knowing that this supports your whole brand, your whole
Yeah. Oh,
marketing strategy is revolved, and it's the one thing that can actually use and take home with them versus clicking an ad or seeing a billboard or getting a flyer. It's
oh, no,
tangible
100%.
versus
Well, I found that whenever it was, I would make it personal, meaning that talking about their personal experience with the brand, because they have removed all personality out of it. It's a spreadsheet. It's a check the box. And when you start asking people questions about them, suddenly they will give you everything, because the moment someone starts talking about themselves, the walls start coming down and they start giving it. So I wouldn't say it was a bait and switch, but many times creative at Bamco would actually talk directly to the customer, which is a lot of times other companies doesn't happen. But you would, if we felt that like we didn't have the whole story, especially when it came to the RFPs, which RFPs many times have curveballs in them on purpose to see if you catch them, or last minute things to do that's got a very short turn time to see if you can turn it around, and that's part of the game. But we felt like this is a definite curveball. and RPs are about relationships. So if you got somebody in there, creative would tap in there and you very so innocently start asking questions that seem like they were talking around the problem, kind of come a bit of a direction. People get comfortable, they start talking, and for you, they are giving you the information that you need to work with. They don't even realize it. And then when you
Yeah.
turn around and give them something that they were like surprises them that you actually listen to them, then and I'll be honest, sometimes that thing you show them at the end of the day may be too expensive. They may not buy it, but you've hooked them and you're able to still get their head in a space where they've at least left that cinch sack and those thunder sticks. That's like, thunder sticks is like the thing I just talk crap about all the time because nobody ever uses it anymore. It's like a default crap product, thunder sticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You at least get them to start moving that mindset, and you start becoming a partner, not a vendor.
Love
And I
that.
think that's
And I
really
think that's the
important.
biggest thing is one of at least in my little distributorship is being able to say, well, they might not do the cool thing, but they have confidence that you can do their boring thing or their
Right.
corporate thing that
Yeah, and
you
even
know
when you're
how
in a
know what the marketplace is like.
yeah. Yeah, no. Even when you're in a very tight corporate space where like this is our color, which is corporate blue. This is our logo that's like only this, and you read their style guide, and they've spent 5 pages telling you the gradients that you can't do with it. Well, first I don't want to do the gradient because they print like crap, but unless it's sublimate it, that's a whole other story. But even in that space, it's not so much about it's about creative execution. How can I take this and execute this on a product that is not just on the left chest, that is not just smack dab. It drives me nuts when people have a big ass water bottle, excuse my French, and they put this tiny little logo floating milk. If you're gonna be that small, put it at the bottom. Put it at the bottom. Don't
Yeah.
put this weird thing that
Don't.
looks like you need to wash off because you can't like that big. So even placement enough stuff and I know when you start going out of non-traditional spots to put stuff, it can at time you can have wastage for something done wrong or incorrectly or whatnot. But
Sure.
when you butt up against that, which with kind of production or ops, like, hey, look, at one time personalizing product was too expensive, but we figured it out
Yeah. Technology
because
grows, everything comes
that,
cheaper, makes it more
yep,
accessible.
yeah, it used to be that you were happy if you got 3 colors in a print, but
Yeah.
we figured it out. So if you don't take and right now with tariffs, the if we want to touch that touch on that,
Sure.
the standard and it's not wrong coming from the C-suite to protect the core, expand all the corporate things, expand your customer base, make a bigger footprint with your customer, stop all R&D, only show the things we know that are bestsellers, whatnot, which is not wrong, but everybody's doing that. So, A, you're going to look just like everybody else, and B, no matter what the financial situation, the human ability to kind of want something new and being tired of something looking at doesn't go away. So actually being brave and taking a step out in R&D, taking a step out in something that is may not be your traditional bestseller, many times can be the winning equation. Because even when, if you're not selling it right now, when the clouds part, and they eventually always do part, you
Yeah.
can't just flip that on and off with a switch. I mean, yeah, you can add another graphic, whatnot, but to get newness in here through the production cycle and actually get something that's going to cost right in the whole bit, that takes time. So while everybody else is still trying to hawk this deep stock that they got,
And everyone is going for that. Yeah.
everyone, like, every used to be the knockoff Swell, then it was a knockoff Stanley, now it's a knockoff whatever, that to have extreme deep stock in black, if it's apparel, dark heather gray, and maybe
Yeah.
corporate blue, maybe white, maybe stainless, you're going to be in a sea of same. And at that point, people are discounting stuff to get it out of their doors. And you're going to be the one that's like, hey, these guys have something interesting when people, and that I understand that takes a certain amount of deep pockets to do. And I get that, but it is a winning strategy. And during the last downturn, COVID, during the last time tariffs, honestly, that's what Bamco did was really let creative still be creative and be able to kind of bring that creative solution to the floor and which work during that time, and definitely exploded the customer base after COVID was over. Really, because
Yeah,
of
I
pushing out
mean,
to
at
the
least
forward.
in the top 40, they blew up, the list. And it really goes to say, I think going into that creative side, I love what you said, the sea of same. And you go to the vintage, not the vintage store, but the thrift store. And, I know Gildan has its purpose, but a lot of the shirts in there are people just throwing away their
Yeah,
5K shirt or their shirt with no, again, it becomes just like a flyer. Let's give out this shirt. And you
right.
go there, and that's where bad t shirts go to die. So, in that creative space, I know Bamco's doing it right. I'm trying to do that. I'm only a team of four. So, my ceiling, we hit my ceiling pretty quickly. But talk about that storytelling aspect in your
Yeah.
creative process. You don't have to give the secret sauce, but when you're approaching these projects, where do you start mentally
You
to
know,
get those ideas generating?
it's not even a secret sauce. It's follow through and being tenacious. Meaning that if you've got a project that seems like it is about as exciting as a one colored hat print cinch sack or thunderstick, it is first off looking at the budget. You don't want to go in there and completely overpitch. The people are like, yeah, I got $1. But looking
Yeah.
at the budget and asking the customer, and you'd be surprised how many times people actually have to pause to think to give you an answer. Why are you giving this? Beyond promo, that we all know that we're already here. Beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
why are you giving this, and why do you think this is of value? And that question alone gets the customer thinking of, well, that's what we've always done.
Yeah. My boss told me to do
Okay.
it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And sometimes that question is harder when you get somebody that, especially when you get something this is like lumped on their plate. It's not their main thing. They're not product people. They don't want to go through the drama of flipping through a 500-page deck. And that if you send a deck with somebody's logo on it on 100 products, first off, they're looking at three. If they're looking at it all, especially if they didn't ask for it. If you're going to add categories, have them make sense and tell a story why you're adding them in there, why this makes sense as incremental, and why it's like maybe here's what you're going to buy a second time, here's what you're going to buy the next time. So go in there with a strategy that shows that you're trying to help them tell a story about their brand, help them, and then dig into the specifics. Many corporate style guides actually do have stuff in them, but they're not like a AVI or EPS or AI file. Read the guide, read the company's core tenets, read their mission statement. There's gold in there. And that person who probably doesn't even know it, or they when they read it when they first got work, they're like, oh yeah. There's a couple times you're like, wow, that's really great. It's like, dude, it's in your guide.
Yeah.
um but again,
Oh,
it's
I
just
guess I
it's
should read that.
right. It's a wealth of information that people don't, unless you're willing to kind of take that creative step. Storytelling is about finding a important detail that gets overlooked and focusing in on that as a reason to give the product, because it's promo. Fine, we get it. Once a year, you're gonna, your new hire kit, you give them a water bottle, and you get what we can all say. We know it's not going to be apparel because they don't want to have sizes. They want to buy a bunch of them. It's going to be a water bottle. It's going to be a notebook, maybe a writing utensil, maybe something electronic, and that's going to either be a charger, a speaker, or a power bank.
And you're super limited unless you're Oric Audio and you can do full color.
Right. Yeah, and there's
But
some that are
both
like
is one
Numo
color
is great
logo.
with bags. Oregadio is always like definitely has a design perspective when it
Yep.
comes to it. And I love Numo stuff. It is what it is.
Yep.
Doesn't try to be what it's not, and it's fun. And interjecting fun in somebody when their logo is a corporate blue and it's like they're in the banking industry. They're like
Yeah.
in provide parts for tractors. It's you have to find
It's
that
challenging.
one person in there that like will be the inside champion, because upstairs they're talking to the marketing folks that are doing the the social media and whatnot. That's their big plan. And I cannot tell you, agencies, oh, I have a thing with agencies.
They
It's
know
like,
nothing of merch. Nothing.
Oh, dude, like we were working with one agent who will not be named, working with one large quick serve restaurant whose colors might be yellow and orange, and there might be a big M somewhere. That there, we met the agency. We went to San Francisco to meet the agency, and they showed us this a line of apparel where all the shirts had one long arm and one short arm. I'm like, what are you like Yoji Yamamoto? Like,
Yeah.
what are you, is this not, it's not
Where did this
Kenzo.
come from?
Where the, well, first off, who's going to wear this? San Francisco. And, and how much do you think that's going to cost to make? And how much do you think you're going to make? Because you're not making thousands of them. I'll tell you that much, you know?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Too
So
niche. Too niche and quirky.
right. Well, and when you've got a large company that has spent 7 figures with this agency to get them to step off of that to do stuff that's actually doable and cool is definitely a delicate conversation. Because you may be talking to the one person that convinced the C-suite to spend the 7 million on making this guy that is like, oh, yeah, well,
Because
hopefully
they
that's
already
something.
spent what, tens of millions on the branding
It's
and creative. So
ridiculous.
it's like,
It's
oh, okay.
yeah. I mean,
I
if
wish.
I didn't, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I wish I was as good at convincing people to spend the money like they do on
I
agencies
know.
to the merch side. It's just
This is
crazy to
what
me.
this is my truth teller right here. I could not. I have a friend of mine who works for an agency who will not be named for a big company. The agency spent $12 million for them to add a shadow to their logo that was one Pantone less than the other Pantone in the logo. I'm like, I can't talk about something that long.
Insane.
It's just psycho. It's freaking psycho. I mean,
Crazy.
I would be laughing while I was trying to say, "Oh, this is the Pantone you should use." Oh, all of our research shows. We don't do research. This, although I do
You're looking
research.
on
I do
Pinterest.
actually do
Come
research.
on.
I do when it comes to
Yeah. So
convincing. You have to talk the right language. Look, read the room. If you're working with a bunch of procurement people, come in with research that actually is quantifiable, and throw some numbers at them, and suddenly they're in their happy space and they're more willing to talk about creative. It's, you know, like know your audience, you know,
yeah,
and talk to the
that's
decision
huge. So
maker.
how do you, yeah, right. Where do you go for research? How do you, are you, I've been collecting magazines and books
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
all kinds of
Um,
tactile, but Pinterest, where do you go?
yeah.
Or how do you
It's
start
well, it's
to?
funny. Before I'd say Bamco because I was very kind of specific to a brand, so that definitely was kind of in fashion. You're not hanging your hat on the Pantone's color of the year because that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
2 years ago was
you're
blue.
years ahead of that.
Yeah, medium blue, really medium blue. So corporate blue, that's your color of the year. And this year, it's what skin? That's a Band-Aid color. No one's making anything that color. Maybe apparel, but that's a Band-Aid. But
But
it's
that's
very
like
sort
three
of
years
interesting.
ago
Like
from Skim. So
right, right, right. It's like sites like Design Boom, where I have a tendency to look at non-traditional spots. So Design Boom covers lots of types of design, actually more architecture and interior, because when you are dealing in definitely like the consumer product space, anything from quick home, I'm not talking like hard good piece like furniture, but home accessories or working in apparel, stuff like that. The home industry, so the hard good stuff, or even bedding. Bedding is almost 2 years of development before you get to end product. They are so far out in their forecasting and spend a lot of money doing it because when you are running to make the math work, to make the margin on something like bedding, you have got to run cajillions of yards for it. So they spend a lot of time and money and effort and looking at all the indicators from, economy to entertainment to, and it used to be looking at social media, but now, with COVID, everybody and their mama is an Instagrammer influencer. I've got a thing with influencers that are like, it's just so like, really, really. If they start with their first thing and say, I'm so excited. Really? Are you excited with what? I'm excited about
yeah,
everything. You know,
You got paid.
or
That's why you're excited.
yeah, right. Yeah, you're talking about the ching.
Yeah.
But social media still is extremely important. But it is more sometimes of looking where if you're seeing in social media, the market's already saturated. By the time if you're working about true like product development, like developing from ground up, if it's social media, it's already saturated. You've missed the boat. You've definitely missed the boat on that. Once in a while, things will pop up, but it's a broad swath of stuff. I do everything from reading the Wall Street Journal to looking at some. There's actually one Instagram of this very sartorial older man in Kenya who apparently has a whole sartorial like culture that
Oh yeah, I
is
have a book,
yeah, so on point, like
The
so
Dandies,
out
right?
there, but so on point of like what's coming there. So that's kind of the little thing, and it's an amalgamation of it all to kind of get to a point of where you feel that it can actually be effective with the time cycle you have to do product. And I would say you've got product trends, color trends, and graphic trends. Graphic trends just rotate out because the graphics is the easiest thing to change. You know, it's supposed to like hard goods development, a product, and every so often you got a new material that pops in. You know, silicone used to be nowhere in drinkware, now silicone's everywhere in drinkware. It used to be it was either stainless or it was plastic. Now it's everything's mixed media of where it is because it just provides another level of design. Silicone is easy to change the color of, but not having to change the color of the stainless that adds that newness, whatnot. So it's focusing in on raw material development, but also with the world of tariffs now, there's going to be definitely a design aesthetic or a design strategy that has to work around it. And it's this time is tough. It's
And
a
how long do you think it's going to be until we start seeing some of that? Like a year or
yeah,
6 months?
it's a very good question. The only well, I mean, he backed off of Vietnam pretty quickly because I don't. You think the first time tariff, a lot of people moved stuff to Vietnam, and when that
Yeah.
Vietnam tariff, you could hear the collective gasp in the industry, and they saw that big tariff on Vietnam. China is they're not backing down. We're not backing down, and we're in such a connected global world. There are very few things that are made in the USA that are made with components that are made in the USA. So it's gonna be interesting. I would like to. Last time I would say I had a better of a dowsing rod on it. This time with it's a little. It's either gonna put it this way. It's either gonna get resolved in the next like month or so, or it's gonna be a
Yep.
long slog. It's gonna be either or. And I
Let's
know
get
for a fact.
resolved, man.
I know for a fact a
Yeah.
lot of people are, and especially in the world of design, they are pulling back. They are definitely, kind of they're battening down the hatches in case it is a long slog, which is it's a smart thing to do, just to kind of protect your company, if you will. And people always feel like, oh, we can hold on to design for a bit, which they always pay for in the end. But I get it.
Exactly.
I get the the steps people are taking just to keep make sure they're keeping the lights on because it's not the little orders that are canceling now; it's the big ones.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, million
yes,
dollar orders. I mean, that's a
yeah.
game
Those are the
changer.
ones
That's
the ones that keep the lights on. Because
a lot of
everybody
staff load.
across the world, are and it happened so abruptly. Last time there was time to kind of reach out and say, "Hey, if you want to buy into a stock position, we can guarantee you a price for X amount of time." The way this one hit and hit so quickly, they're just literally those ships have sailed. That stuff is stuff that you had to been into it a while ago because that stuff is
Yeah.
already on the water. Um, so it's either gonna resolve quickly or it's gonna be a long slog. Now, when it comes to design, this is a time that if people do have a stock position, it's gonna be graphics. It's going to be really that's going to be the way you're going to be able to push at least show some newness in a product is by
Yeah.
any graphic application or treatment of whatnot, and that's going to be done stateside. So you're looking at things that are going to be made after product's already made. How are you decorating it? Granted, we've got full wraps when it comes to water bottle. There's things that are definitely give you that ability to, but it's still going to be interesting,
Yeah.
and a lot of companies, I know this for a fact, they are trying to lean into AI for creative, which is, well, don't get me wrong, AI is a great tool. It is. I love me a generative fill in Photoshop. If I got to clean up a
Oh
background, do
man,
it for me.
huge. Yeah,
But the way AI works is it references other things that are deemed good or positive. But we've gotten to a point now, and I blame it on things like Canva, where, sorry, Canva, that because you've got people that are all non creative that are making these creative decisions, and that goes into a data set. So now AI is starting to reference AI as being the right answer. There's only so many
scary.
versions of a gradient you can do on
Yeah,
something
and
that is, yeah. So it's,
I think the aspect of it's a tool. I think the everyone that that has Photoshop is a designer these days. All that bottom is going to be cut out because how I'm using it. I have a art director and he's the one designer in house,
yeah,
and I can only do so much of what his capacity is. Now I'm going into my knowledge base of pop culture and history and fashion.
right, right.
And now I'm creating a design that's almost 90% there. And then now he only has to do that last 10%, put our touch, our aesthetic. And it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be a game changer for me because I can't design, but my ideas are what brings a lot of this to life. So like I'm seeing that as all right, I don't have to pay 8 junior designers to create all these assets for me.
It's a
I'm
great,
doing
right.
it, and now my mood board is mood board plus almost final product or inspiration for that final product. And
Yep.
I'm trying to embrace that because that's the only way I can compete with the big boys of they have a
Right,
full
yeah.
graphics team.
Right. They
AI
have it,
is going
right.
to beat
They
my
have
graphics team.
they have a team on it. And that's it. It's a tool. It can be a very effective, powerful tool, but it's not your ideator. It is
Yep, it's not
not
the
the one to do.
asset.
It's not the one that's coming with the ideation, because in especially if you are in the world of three-dimensional product, AI gives you things that break the laws of physics to make them. Like I don't think that can go together, or don't understand a budget, or don't understand how something's put together,
Yeah.
or understand like you just went so far afield on a brand new mold with stainless. That's $10,000. I hope I'm going to sell a lot of them. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't. It's not a human. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
So when people start
Yeah, it's the
referencing
prompts.
AI, well, as and start giving it a pronoun, I'm like, nope, nope. You got John Connor just shaking his head, like I tried to tell you in the '80s, folks. Tried to tell you. Skynet is here, babe. Skynet is coming.
I'm trying to take
So
over. Yeah.
it's a great tool, and and I think at some point, some types of ideations, if you give it very very tight parameters, like you can put something here, give me some variations on art, even though sometimes it's like, although. A friend of mine sent me something. There is now a ring that looks like a fake finger that you can if you take a photo with it, you can deny that photo was you because you could say it's AI because you have 6 fingers. It's just, of
That's
course,
scary too.
it's
All the
it's from
deep
Timo.
fakes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So like yeah,
of course.
of course it's
A
from
dollar
Timo,
50.
and it comes in a couple different skin tones as well. So you slip it on your ring, your pinky ring, and it's a fake finger that pops out like this out of your hand. Hilarious.
That is funny. I think there's some social content on that could be really
Oh,
funny.
I think someone's going to be doing a dissertation about it in years from now, like just the rabbit hole that we fell down with
Uh,
AI. Unfortunately, I hope it's not AI writing that dissertation about its business.
exactly right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things evolve from this. It's scary, and I mean, it's moving so fast. I think a good designer versus a good designer with AI talent. I mean, you're going to have that piece to your portfolio,
Yeah,
unless
no,
you're a fine
100%.
artist or an
You just
illustrator.
treat AI like Illustrator or Photoshop. It is
Yep,
is
yep,
a tool to
100%.
deliver your message. It is you can't. Oh, Photoshop is not going to ID a three-dimensional product for you. It can, but it's not anything that's really going to be makeable or useful or even understand the human element. And I kind of have like a personal test I do with AI, and I ask it for two things. For visually, I ask it to give me a business person, in an animal print suit, and I have yet to get somebody that did not have an animal part. They don't understand a animal print suit.
Yeah,
So there'll be a person, but there's something just kind of like that ear's a little furry, like that, and
yeah,
then
a
then
couple
I asked it
whiskers coming out here.
right, or I ask it
That's
to design me a ergonomically correct bottle. You get some funky shapes. So like that's great, but you realize if you filled that, the top is heavier than the bottom, so it would fall over if you try to sit it down. Physics. Yeah, physics. They have
a
it has a
super
permanent.
nerd on product because that the other people will be like, "Oh, that looks great," but not
Yeah.
not digging
Oh
into
God.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Having a
really
like.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited about possibilities of what you can do with it. The
No, 100%.
downside,
It's a great tool.
it's just gonna make so much more junk out there. Um, you
Ooh,
know,
yeah.
that
Right.
is not aesthetically pleasing, but there's no
Yeah.
put bottle at this point.
It's frightening, but it's also exciting. I mean, I
Yeah.
did well, kind of show how old I am. I was actually a beta tester for Illustrator to say
Whoa, that's
how
awesome.
how old I am. And I remember when Illustrator was first coming out, you had illustrations were by hand, and that's when I was in New York, and you had a whole industry of people that was their job. They really they did flats for people, they illustrated stuff like that, and then I'm like, lean into it, baby, lean into it, because this is learn it now, because it's eventually going to happen. So
Yeah.
there will be there's a lot of, I mean, it's really been several years now that you could send a photo to some outfit in India and pay 12 cents for them to
Yep.
take out a background. But
Yep.
that's been there. But just there is a whole section of the industry that, when it comes to providing creative, that base level, that lean into it. Lean into being able, having those having that skill set, but be able to differentiate and have that discussion when people that don't understand it will say, "Can we do this more? Can we do this more with it?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you want." Can they give you an animal print soup? Oh, by the way, the person's a head of an animal.
Yeah.
That's
That's right.
kind of it's and I've actually done that test in front of somebody that didn't believe me. I'm like, here, let's try. Let's go to another online site and try that. Yeah, same thing. So
I think that important part for creatives, and now even with AI, not non-creatives, is being curious and exploring, because
right, no,
you can talk crap about it, but like actually play with it. It can make your life better
oh no, it
if you're
is
utilizing it.
it's a great tool. Like, cleaning up a photo, taking out a background, coming up with, I've actually used it to give me new color harmonies. So I've got, color harmonies. I mean, honestly, you go to Pinterest and put color harmonies, and every mother in the world or somebody's kind of pulled them together.
Yeah.
But I've asked AI to come up with color harmonies, and it's actually, wow, okay. I mean, it gives you a bunch of different color harmonies when you're trying to add that secondary or tertiary color into something. You're not quite it,
Yep.
you just need a bunch of kind of visuals that you don't have to sit there and leaf through and keep on pulling yourself. That is exponentially kind of, or even using the search function as AI, of, because I've asked AI, and it's like, go out, what is the top 3 colors of this product category that's available at retail?
It's huge.
So that, and what
Saving
AI
you
is,
hours and hours and hours of
yeah,
research.
that is an extremely powerful tool. Right, that would take hours of like flipping through all different ranges of retail sites and the whole bit. But I always have to tell minus Timu, because
Wow. Ooh.
yeah, because you get a lot of China pink if uh you let Timu get in there.
See,
But
just those little things, you're not going to really know unless you try. And it's talking to it with logic of this, not this, eliminate that. I mean, just those prompts are going to output so much better,
oh yeah, yeah,
creative, and in even text. Like I'm using it for social media
oh yeah,
strategies of,
yeah.
and then I
Writing is
fill in the
great.
blanks.
Yeah, consolidating an idea, reading articles and consolidating them for you. They've gotten a lot better with that. They used to kind of miss tone. It used to be just very like information, but
Yeah,
it's gotten a lot better of kind of like reading, getting the tone of something if it's condensing it, or getting your tone through when you're
yeah.
trying to say something and not seem like you are corporate speak.
Yep. I yesterday I did an experiment, the same prompt in Chat GPT, Grok, and Midjourney, and to
Hmm.
see what it came out with.
Yeah.
And the new ChatGPT 4.0, I mean, 1,000 times better than all those other
Yeah.
ones. Like that, giving you weird things. It can't get that text right. This new
Yeah.
upgrade is insane. That you tell it what to do. I put parentheses around the right words that I want
Right.
it to
Right.
put on
Exactly.
my
Yeah.
design, and it's brilliant. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. That or
that it's so
Grammarly
much
is
different.
actually, if you have to have longer writing, Grammarly is actually pretty good too about getting that tone
Really,
just right, and taking subtle cues that don't sound like, because I mean, it used to be you say shorten this and it takes 5 paragraphs to make it 2 sentences. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I didn't say shorten
More
it to 10
cliff
words.
notes, not you're not bullet
Right.
points.
Right. Exactly. I mean, not a crib sheet, but more clip notes.
So,
So my,
so with the creatives in our industry, one big thing for my social media content at all, like I did a talk a couple years ago about every company needs a creative director or creative leader in some
Mhm.
aspect. As I'm sure you've seen in this promotional product space, I don't know of anyone else other than you that is like a creative director. And the one, and it makes me sad because you have the design department and the salespeople and production, and there's no cohesion and there's no creative voice or taste.
Yeah,
What do you think in this, like, why do you think in this industry that talks about creative do not hire those roles? And,
that's a very good
how
question.
obviously Bamco seems different in that aspect.
I would say that it is a difference we're talking about product ideation and decoration. The promo industry is based on decoration. When they say that they are creative, that they're really referencing decoration, and that's really it. They're not referencing creative strategy. They're not reference. They're not. There's nobody there that is to be the sojourner and fight against the cinch sack. The choice to purchase the cinch sack is made by somebody in accounting or procurement, not the creative person. So I think in this industry, it has never really. It's always been set up on somebody else is going to do the creative, and I'm going to buy it from them, and I'm going to decorate it. Being able
Amazing.
to, and that's a different mindset. Even if you are still going to be purchasing from a manufacturer, what a vendor, the having the mindset of diving further into at least change the color of the shoestring on the cinch sack. Not that big of an ask, not that
Yeah.
hard, but actually different than that nylon looking, sublimated with the black shoestring. Like, ooh, you went dark feather gray, you're stepped out. But there's nobody in that role because the industry really is not set up. And now, granted, there, and it's also a role that it's hard to direct one to one. If somebody makes a decision to purchase this item, there's definitely there's a spreadsheet that needs to balance out with that. That we purchase this to make this money. But when you're talking about creative concept and ideas, it's ephemeral. Yes, there's a return on it, and you can see that in the aggregate. But you have a lot of people that are have a procurement mindset. And what the procurement mindset is, they don't understand. They're followers. They've said, like, we need to see enough aggregate data to know that this item is going to be very, very sellable, so we can purchase it and give it to our creative department to decorate, and that's what they feel is creative. Not coming in with a creative strategy or a mindset to dive further into the customer's needs that actually doesn't only make that project better, but expands your footprint at the customer because they start opening their eyes of because you may be working with HR, but there's other parts of that business that you may not have any exposure to that you probably could
Yeah.
do. But if nobody goes in there to start with a creative perspective that makes that person, if they're willing, and sometimes it's an uphill battle, to pause and say, whoa, okay, yeah, I understand how this is actually thing. So you've got to convince somebody a bit, and that's on both sides of the wall, either the companies or the people you're selling to, that there's value in that. And that takes going in, and I'm a geek. Like I'm a creative that understands math. We're not supposed to. We're not because I feel like that's the only way that I
Yeah.
can actually bring you is to not kill your margin. I have to understand the math. I have to understand the small picture about math, the big picture about math. I understand that let me be creative over here to get in the business because it's going to win you that procurement business that's $1 million. And that's a creative strategy, not just providing decoration.
Yes. Yep. And I
So,
love that because as a creative, you can affect every part of that company from sales because they're not thinking decoration, design, social
uh,
media marketing. And then even on the production side of how, even if we're dealing with stock garments, like you said, on a, let's say, an independent hoodie, let's swap out the drawstring for something thicker with a branded tip or a
right,
zipper pull. Like those are little things that the production, yeah, they can produce that all day long, but the
yeah,
sales, it's so disconnected. And then the creative is just doing what the sales team is telling them. So I think I see that as a big hurdle of how do you bring everyone together and have that creative, whatever, talk about all those things, the financial
right.
side, the procurement side, the production side, the marketing side. Um, it's
Yeah,
difficult,
it's
but like
having
that's my vision of the space.
it's having a creative. It is the company, say Banco, whatever, they have to put creative forward as being that important, and putting them on the center stage with the customer to talk about it. Because if they're showing that they believe into it, it's a large company. Like, okay, wow. I mean, this is a different take than what I'm used to. So they're that support to do that. And I would say sales, we love you, sales. We can't do this job without you, sales. But please
Yes,
don't
exactly.
go on Pinterest and do a Google search and go to Canva and make your own deck. We get it, and we know you want that guaranteed customer is going to do that same order every time. You base your vacation on what that order is going to be. We get it. We get it.
Sure.
We totally get it. Uh, and God
Love
love you.
that.
God love you. But
Yep.
I would say at Bamco there was definitely a creative approach, a strategic approach about how you apply creative to a customer. Look, there are some customers that are only going to be so big, and you provide more, I would say, kind of creative that just comes out as a kind of a broad spectrum of stuff that comes out just annually pushed out or monthly pushed out that allows them to participate in that, but they're not going to really garner enough money to really take that expensive creative time to think about it. But still, the creative thought process of how to approach a customer is still there. But for the bigger ones, you can when you can actually go in there and you do that magic. If you have that internal support to do that, then you're setting a different precedent than what's out there now. And this industry, we will beat somebody over the head with the same water bottle forever until they say they want a different one.
Yeah. It's here at the end of the day, you're like, all right, we
Yeah,
get paid.
or
We're
you
not doing
send
a
them
whole
a
lot of
deck
work.
that's got like a 500 freaking bottles on it. You can't even tell the difference between like most of them. They're going to look at page 2 and
Yep.
like
Or what's the cheapest?
right. Right. Oh yeah, it's a race to the bottom. Definitely race to the bottom. And you wonder, and that's that strategic role, or looking at that strategically is looking at the long-term investment in a customer. Does it make sense for me to knock this out of park here, knowing that it's
Not what
not
they're
going to
doing now,
be
what they're gonna do in the future.
right? We know this one order is not going to be that much, but this order is setting you up to go in there for the RFP. That creative input there is going to set you to go up in there with a different approach, and you automatically are going to present a different equation than everybody else there in the RFP, which is kind of doing the standard, your standard fare. Let me do my procurement sheet. Let me look at the creative questions. Let me throw more creative at them that they want, because quantity does not equal quality, and
Ain't
that's
that the truth?
that's that's
I'm gonna
that's
meme that
definitely
right
Achilles
there.
heel of this business. It's just stuff,
Yep.
just showing people stuff.
No one needs stuff. No one needs more stuff. None. No,
Yeah,
none
that's
of us need more stuff.
I credit AdFab for this line. I don't want more stuff. I want nicer things.
Yes. I want
I
to
want just
upgrade on my last thing I
I
got.
don't yeah. And let's be
Yep.
honest. In this world, at some point, somebody's already been given a water bottle, a t-shirt. Yeah, they've been given that. So again, and I'm not trying to shoot a water ball in the foot. Thundersticks, I will shoot in the foot. I'm not trying to shoot a water ball in the foot. And sometimes
Good
that is
margins
what
on the water bottles.
Yeah, you're right. That is what you need. That is, and that's what the customer asked for. But just like going back to that 14-year-old girl who had 10 water bottles. So I've been playing basketball for 2 years in this like tournament league, whatnot. You know,
Yeah.
it you would have actually secured and actually spent your money wisely, even if every order was less than that water bottle, because you are pulling them in with a story. She's like, she rattled off. She's like, I wish I had like shoestrings that were like the color of my team. I wish we had like, I wish that I can get like sticky notes that I could put like that says my team's name. I mean, she literally laid out almost everything that like check, 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 check. I go to Primark,
14.
get this, check, 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 and just nobody bothered to ask, and nobody bothered to think about it. So it's lack of a
And the
creativity and lack of.
yep, the consumer's smarter. They have choices. They know the difference between good and bad. When they order from Temu or Shein, they know that they're not getting Ralph Lauren or Gucci,
Right,
right?
right.
So it's that expectation of who is your audience? Do they like
Yeah,
the cheap
actually, I read a
stuff or
very
do
interesting
they?
article about the other day about Sheen equaled the death of Forever 21.
I think I saw that. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's crazy that Forever 21 is
Yeah, I know. I
been
mean, talk
dethroned
about once a juggernaut of a
yeah,
of a business model.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's
See,
and Sheen figured it out. And it goes. I mean, granted, it may
yep,
fall apart. Granted, it may be the size of a doll. Granted, you probably are gonna. I wouldn't wear that if it's wet outside.
yep.
Fast fashion.
I mean, the
Just
marketplace is moving too fast. You cannot rest on your laurels. It's, you might have used to be able to do that.
yep.
You've seen Blockbuster and other companies that have gone out that they did not see the vision or they weren't up with the times. And someone else is more passionate and more creative in their approach, and they're gonna surpass you if you don't stay on your toes. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's risk taking, and it's not sitting on your laurels. It's flipping the script, and I would say many times the because I'm dyslexic like every really creative person is. Oh, don't ask me directions. You're going to go all wrong if I give you directions. Um,
okay,
but there's actually a lot of science to people that are dyslexic that you automatically look at problems from that's flipped. You are flipping the script of the equation to figure out a problem is already where your mind's gone in the first place, and you kind of have to work your way back sometimes the other way.
yeah,
But it allows you to not hold things sacrosanct, to hold things that are like supposedly pillars. It puts everything on an even playing field, and you're able to kind of pick and choose things that may seem counterintuitive, but given the equation, they are the right answer. I mean, and that comes with managing creatives too. There's definitely you've got breeds of creatives. You got your guy that likes to line up crosshairs and does packaging. God
yep,
bless him. I would go cuckoo bananas if I had to do that. Um, but
yeah,
but yeah, and you have your spectrum, but you have your creative savants. They're not going to be the person that's going to churn out their deck, but they're going to be the person that comes with that $1 million idea. But even managing creatives, you got to give people the space to do that and not look, don't try to cross train the guy that likes to run at crosshairs to be over here to come up with watercolor artwork. It ain't gonna happen. Could you make it happen? Yeah, they're not going to be happy. They're going to leave. They're going to go find
sure.
someplace else to make that type of thing. So even managing creatives, but also when you're working with customers, people have a visual language, and everybody's slightly different. And if you have to be able to be versatile in the sense of talking to them on the ground that they understand, because trying to make everybody understand one way, one thing creative is an uphill battle. An uphill battle. I would say, like at Bamco, like there we definitely some customers who like a burger place that's here in LA that starts with an I and ends with a T, hates their brand colors on product.
That makes it
So
tough.
when you show them product, even if it's the most amazing thing in the world, don't put it in their
Yeah,
brand color because they're just going to immediately reject it. So that type of being able to curtail the language that you're speaking to creative, which is specific to that person, and meet them where they are at, that alone has already endeared you better for them. They're actually going to give your creative an even shake as opposed to like, you know, I got 100 things to look at, whatever. They're you'd be surprised how
Empathy
many.
paired with creativity.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. It's strategy. It's
Yeah.
creative strategy, and that has to happen. You can't ask somebody who's turning and burning on mock-ups to remember every last one of your customers like that. It takes somebody to kind of guide that, or like if you work with a customer a long time, you get to know it. But still, like let's dive a little bit deeper on, because even if, and there are some people, some customers that even if you eventually have to make it in their brand color, they personally hate it. So if you show it to them mocked up in the way of following their style guide, they're going to hate everything. And that's you're just like, wow, okay, but you do what you got to do to
So
speak their language.
yeah, all you companies out there, if you're having the production guy and the creative do the creative task, or the designer also try to think of the pricing, that's going to be difficult. You need a leader that is going to help bridge the gap between all those departments and really, like you said, see the strategy. It's the story that is going to change a product to something that
Oh,
has
100%.
purpose for it. So
And
yeah,
I will give
I love
Bamco
that.
their, I'll give them their due. They have a lot of product managers that are work directly with the customers that have some great creative ideas, but they're going to only
Yeah,
work inside the framework of what's available to them. And they're great at, like, ideating or showing their different products. It's the creative is the one that's willing to break the rules in a smart way that walks that line that you're not going to, offend somebody or whatnot, or seem like you're off brand, quote unquote, if you will.
sure.
But do that in a way that is just that enough it makes them uncomfortable in a really good way. And because it challenges their norms of what they're going to look at. And let's be honest, anybody you're selling to, you're not the only show in town. They have gone and got
Yep.
decks from 5 other people. So just for that thing alone of knowing how to break the rules just enough that you just are setting yourself apart, period, no matter what you're showing them, is going to automatically set you above. And it leads to creative conversations that you may not convince their mind the first time, but you have posed a question to them that they're starting to ask themselves different questions.
That's it.
And then,
Then they
and then
start
that's
they
when you get
start
back.
thinking for you. They start doing the ideating for you. They start, oh, I saw this at retail, and when you can get them thinking about it, I mean that's gold, man. Even
It's a
if it's
simple
not their
question.
role, simple.
Very simple question. Ask personal questions. What do you like? What's in your cabinet at home? Like, make them think
What do you
about
spend your money
themselves
on?
interfacing with the product, and you are automatically going to just jump out of this very tight box that they feel that it's supposed to be in, or has to be. Like, everybody loves that water bottle. Do they really? How do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Have they told you?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, Derek, so much fire, man. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing
boy,
all these
more than
nuggets
welcome.
and
Very, my pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure to
your
help.
experience. So, what right now? What are you doing right now? What are you trying to do next? Give us a little
Good
bit
question.
about what
Good
your
question.
upcoming goals are.
I departed from Bamco and thought I was going to retire, which is laughable. I made it about 2 months before I was like, I got to do something. So, it's my next creative step is actually I am. That's a very good question. It is. I'm actually working with some people. Do a couple of European companies doing some contract work, but that's like super high end stuff. I mean, I would say brands. You'd be like, who? But it's really like, what's the next creative challenge for me? And it's something I can sink my teeth into. It could be in licensing. It could be back in promo. It could be actually designing product again, because I definitely feel and don't be wrong, I was able to design a ton of product at Bamco, like really from ground up, working at factory. But there's that little bit of part of me too that's not really like really been in it for a long time. That I may go back to that, or I may do a mix of all of it, kind of depending on what opportunities pop up in front of me. So it all depends. If somebody wants a really experienced but slightly crazy creative person, but in a good way,
Hit them
in
up.
a good way. I'm the crazy you
Yeah,
can introduce your mom crazy, that kind of crazy.
that's awesome. So I'm going to put all your website and your LinkedIn in the
Appreciate that.
description. Everyone go follow him. He's posting and sharing about stuff that he's done over the years, and the amount of experience. I don't even think people are going to even be able to get the type of experience that you've garnered over your career
It's
in
fun.
one.
In doing my site, I took a lot to call down. I really had to call, to
Amazing.
tell the right story to show, and not beat people over the head with it. But I am actually also starting to. I've been doing some guest lecturing at universities, and I am going to be starting to do some writing about creative and about the industry. That you'll see that popping up pretty soon as well.
Love it. I
I
will
mean, actually
definitely
writing,
share.
for
Maybe
real writing.
maybe we can do some. Maybe we can do a creative summit within the industry. All of you
Oh, that
big boys out there, if you want,
totally down with that. Totally.
let's do a little conference and
I
help your
to,
team get more creative.
Oh, totally down with that. Totally down with that. Because that's where
Awesome.
um, I I am blessed and cursed with being a total geek. So if I and I have to say, Disney taught me corporate speak. So if I need to switch into to C-suite mode, I got you.
Yep. Love
For
it,
being a
man.
creative.
Well, Derek, thank you so much. I appreciate you, man.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank you.
weekend.
You too. You
And
too.
this has been Picker on Promo and Fashion to the People.
Thanks.